Okay, now from here, I would like Dan and Cyabra to speak about what would be the best, countermeasures against such risk of new type of disinformation campaigns, and for the maybe 2 to 3 years or 5 years or the longer period of time. That's okay. This is open dialogue, and there can be no conclusion, but simply I would like to hear kind of experts comment about this topic. Okay.
You want me to jump in?
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay, with pleasure. I think that there's a strong misconception in the world right now, which is that, the AI tools that are existing in the world as we speak, they're only used to deceive, to create deception, and
Mm.
to screw the public opinion. But I think that if we truly try to understand the nature and the data set upon which these AI tools have been trained, the same tools, the same methodologies could potentially be used and employed to also defend and not just potentially deceive, right? Because technology isn't just part of a silly problem and that's it. Even if the problem is the biggest one ever, I think that technology holds the key to a reliable solution. If you're asking, if I had to really point out to a single framework, a single thing that I would like to leave everybody with, I would say that from our perspective, and we've been very big advocates for this for a long time, and it will happen in time. And when the time comes, will be a very big tectonic shift in that place. We have been advocating to create sort of a global AI regulation. That's something that is very important because it will lead to creating laws, regulation, but more than that, a standard. We are creating standardized disinformation policies and rules to look up to when we want to enforce and understand the problem that we're facing, right? We need to establish methodologies and techniques to govern and sort of properly classify the threats that are coming from that world. It's a challenge because these things take time, because there's a lot of moving pieces, right? A lot of moving pieces in this information. It's a complex one. And you also want to make sure that when you have that sort of global AI regulation, you're not misusing it, or you're not restraining too much of free speech, and you're not, restraining people from telling what they truly think and truly feel. So I think the line is thin. It's a complex approach, which is why it takes time to do. But we need to make sure that we are able to align these policies, right? To align these policies across different nations and different regulatory entities within different nations and geographies, because I think I know it's a critical part to sort of counteract disinformation issues and threats as a whole, whether it's state sponsored, politically sponsored, economically sponsored, you name it, right? This is probably the right way. I am confident this is the right way.
Mhm.
That we can really find a solution to like make sure that you're not exploiting those gaps and doing it properly.
Yes, I also would like at least like not highlight, for example, like technological development as a like it's a very strange to say that like technological development is not the key player because it is the key. But like one of my concerns in the focus of technological development as a core driver of this kind of countering disinformation is that like as Dan you correctly mentioned, like this tool and technology, like based on which we are developing the say protection tool and the adversary creating the attacking tool is the same. So basically this is kind of the race between like offensive side of the technology and defensive side of the technology, and this gap will not be very large in any moment. So this is very difficult from the technological perspective to gain the superiority in the defense over offense so that we can assure that we can protect the environment from the technological perspective. That's why I also believe some policy making would be necessary to say first regulate this kind of conversation and also like while ensuring democratic discussion. So at this point, I agree. But I want to have one question to Dan that, so this kind of, for example, the legal framework or this regulation should be multi, say, country and like across the nation, I believe. However, for example, now the world is dividing into two or maybe like much more multipolar worlds. And in this sense, for example, the regulation that the EU, NATO, the US, and the like G7 are imposing would not be accepted, for example, by China, Russia, India, and other like developing nations. So this kind of a gap still exists when we are thinking about the global standards and so on. So how do you think this kind of differences can be solved, or like what kind of the remedy we need to take if this gap is not solvable? What do you think?
It's a good question, and I know for a fact that I don't hold all the answers from a how to build a proper regulatory landscape, but I think that maybe for the first time or among the first times in the history of like general threats, I think that there's a very clear finger pointing direction from a lot of common countries that are saying this is where it's coming from, this is how it's being used, and the fact that the bad and fake actors are coming in from the same countries and they're actually also using the same conduits, right? Whether it's the social media platforms or sometimes the media outlets at their own stake, it automatically creates almost like of a bonding of challenge. You have no choice, right? You can claim that, you know, Japanese citizens are very privy and sensitive and potentially exposed to the same Chinese threat that I would like to believe potentially American citizens as well. If it's one common enemy and it's happening within the same conduit, then you have no choice but to find yourself around the same sort of joint table and fight it together. It's not common. You don't usually do that in physical wars, you know, and hopefully there's going to be no physical wars for the next 5,000 years, right? But the informational chaos and the informational war, it's already happening. We're already swimming into it. So I think that it would be stupid of the allies suffering from the same enemy to not sit around the same table and build one joint structure. Even if it means that it takes another year, another 2 years, this would probably be the same way and also apply more pressure on the conduit to relieve the pain quicker.
Yeah, I believe now, yeah, Japan first is gradually start to integrate this kind of response against the threat within Japanese bureaus. So I believe the situation in the other countries are more or less the same except for the EU. But yeah, this kind of the international coalition or the like coalition of the like-minded countries, yeah, would be required. Like before, for example, like we will have the international agreement, because yeah, without this kind of like partial agreement in it, I think it's very unrealistic to think about it. But yeah, it's also sad for me that this is also suggesting that our world is like dividing once again, and the international and geopolitical situation is now changing, and it's also affecting the cognitive landscape.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, we want to continue more, but due to the time constraint, we need to stop here. Dan, thank you very much for your time today, and Sam 君、どうもありがとうございました。
お疲れ様です。
はい、ですね、本日は情報戦について、昨年、起こった事象についての、コメント、それから技術的な観点、そしてですね、最後は専門家の2人にお話をしてもらいましたが、 これはもうそのテクノロジーの話だけではなくてですね、政府といいますか、様々な角度からですね、対抗していかなければいけない問題だと強く再度認識をした限りです。当社といたしましてはですね、このようなですね、トピックについての様々なこういったコンテンツをこれからも作っていきたいと思いますので、引き続きよろしくお願いいたします。今日はどうもありがとうございました。Alright. Thank you very much. That's it for today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Miyamoto-san.
Thank you. Bye bye.